Hello friends, and welcome to part 2 of my favourite books of 2025. This is the non-fiction part because I was going to do it all in one go and then it got too bloody long. So we're going to chat non-fiction. Last year I really wanted to read more non-fiction books and I think I did, but also I read some absolutely fucking excellent ones. Like, pretty much all of the ones that I read were just great, and this is the highlight reel. So I'm definitely going to carry on trying to read more non-fiction in 2026, and also more poetry, because I have not read enough poetry recently and I bloody love it. It brings me so much joy. So anyway, tangent, let's get into it. So first up we have Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments by Saidiya Hartman, which is an incredibly complicated book. This is a history that also brings in elements of fiction, in a sense, kind of almost like speculation, but in such a skilled way. This is about women, black women living in New York, mostly in the early 1900s, and how they were almost always in some kind of rebellion. It looks at their lives through the lens of being wayward and not conforming to what was expected of them, wanting new things, freedom, their own lives and existence in a world and a society that was constantly trying to bring them down and put their entire existences under assault. She looks at individual cases and sort of groups, and takes primarily these sort of individual fragments of evidence and then builds stories and histories out of them that feel so true. This is an entirely new way of doing history, and I think for me it took a little while to get used to. Like, I started off feeling quite uncomfortable with how she was sort of taking certain things and then expanding on them and making her own kind of narrative out of these bits of historical evidence. But the point that she's kind of making is that you have to do that. All history is that, especially the history of people who are oppressed and have been traditionally oppressed for a long time, and are excluded from historical records. History is always constructing a story and a narrative out of certain bits of evidence, and the way she does it in this book is so full of empathy and insight. And I think ultimately her kind of thesis in this book is that these people who were trying to live in their own way, and sort of otherwise from what was expected of them and what was generally accepted, and just live authentically in a world that was trying to tell them not to, and trying to kind of quell their existence entirely, is an incredibly important political act, but also one of beauty that should be celebrated. And this is so emotionally impactful, but also academically impactful. Like, this totally changed how I view history as a whole, and as someone who is currently studying for a master's in history, that is quite a significant thing. So yeah, she is an incredible writer. I also read in 2025 a good portion of her book, Scenes of Subjection, for an essay that I was writing, and that is an incredibly hard read. It's not sort of traditionally published. It's a much earlier book that is more a sort of like academic historian's sort of take, but again, the way that she writes and the way that she looks at things, I was like blown away in that as well. I didn't read the whole thing, but my god, she's a writer. She is such an incredible mind, and I love this. Next up we have Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a book that I have heard so much about over the years, but I had never really had any urge to read it, because I thought it was about sort of nature and conservation which it is. It very much is about all of that. And I'm not saying I didn't want to read about those things, but I don't know what made me pick this up particularly, but I'm so glad that I did, because it kind of changed everything about how I view the world. And that's what I've found so much joy in with nonfiction in the last year, is that when it is good, oh my god, it can be life-changing and transformative. So Robin Wall Kimmerer is a biologist, a botanist, and a scientist. She is also a deeply spiritual person, very connected to her Native American roots and upbringing and folklore. And this book is kind of her trying to show that those things are not opposed, that they go together in the most beautiful complementary way. It is about how important it is to see the world not just through a scientific lens, but through one of storytelling and art and beauty, and how those two things can inform each other and make our understanding of the world more rich. She also uses the traditions of certain Native American cultures to illustrate how the way that we can set up our world can be completely different. The way that we do society is not the best one, which, you know, I think we could all kind of agree on. But also that there are radical alternatives that can work and do work and have worked for centuries. She talks a lot about the gifts that the natural world gives to us, and accepting those gifts with gratitude and repaying them, and the relationship between different elements of the natural world, and how that can be used to build a society based on gratitude and reciprocity. So this is all in one book, a takedown of consumer capitalism, a celebration of the natural world and all its beauty, an education on Native American spirituality, myths and traditions and ways of creating, a celebration of art and storytelling and how that can enrich science, not just enrich it, but is necessary for science and doing science properly and understanding the world in its full complexity. And also an environmental manifesto on looking after the world and what it gives us. It's just so radical in the most beautiful and gentle way, and I adored it. Next is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is another book that I listened to on audiobook. In fact, 3 out of 5 of this list I listened to on audio. And I would, first of all, highly recommend this audiobook. John Green reads it and he does an incredible job. This book is a history of tuberculosis, but it is also a history of the world and how our society has been set up to create inequality. It is a book about how illness and disease and health impact every aspect of our relationships and our societies and how they are built up. It's about how tuberculosis came to be cured and how it came to become curable, but also how it is not cured and why it is not cured regularly in many different areas in the world. And all of this is done primarily through the lens of personal stories of people that John Green has met. It starts with the question of why is it that we can cure the world's most deadliest disease? Why is it that it is still the world's most deadliest disease when we can cure it? And from there, looks at so many personal stories and experiences to explore this question and the history of disease as a whole and our attitudes towards disease. Next is Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller, which is a memoir a piece of science writing and nature writing, somewhat a biography of a late 19th century naturalist, a true crime expose, and an examination of the history of eugenics in America. How can one book do all of that, you ask? I don't know, it just manages it. It's so good. So this starts off with Lulu Miller talking about her grief and the experience of having a bad breakup, losing her father, and trying to find direction in her life, which she chooses to do through examining the work of David Starr Jordan, who discovered and categorized many, many different species of fish in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the US. Through his work and his dedication to trying to find order in the world, a world which at the beginning of the book Lulu Miller is seeing as purely full of chaos and suffering and meaninglessness. However, when she is on this journey of exploring his life and his work, she finds a lot of stuff that she did not bargain for, including a possible murder and a really dark past with eugenics, past that has really infiltrated a lot of US culture and become very prevalent in ways that I did not expect. This book is so wild. It goes in so many directions and I was not expecting any of them. You will be now because I've just told you about them, but it still is so gripping and interesting in so many different levels. But then the end is so life-affirming. Like, the journey that you go on with Lulu Miller is just incredibly powerful, and I loved every minute. It's fascinating. It is heartbreaking. Like, if you want to give someone something where you're like, you're going through some stuff right now, or you're not sure what direction your life should take, you're struggling to find meaning, this is a book that is not self-help, but will help somebody, I think, more than any other kind of self-help book could. And last but not least, we have Codependent by Madhumita Murgia. This is a book about AI, primarily not generative AI, but algorithms and systems that are used to make decisions for people, make decisions about people, and why those systems are often very flawed. However, what I loved about this was that it is not all doom and gloom and terrifying. This is a book that really goes into a lot of detail about specific cases where AI and complex algorithms are used in our society, and in some cases those are really positive. They have amazing potential for use in medical fields in particular, but it mostly looks at how this potential is then being corrupted and squandered by the people that own the technology. Surprise, surprise, the problem isn't actually necessarily with the base technology itself. It is with the rich companies that are using it for bad purposes. There is some really, really scary and disturbing stuff in here. The chapter about deepfake porn is incredibly hard to read. I also learned so much, more than I thought that I was going to, about how AI can be used, its potential, and the horrible things that it is being used to enable, and what will carry on happening if it is not sufficiently regulated. And I really think that this is a book that everyone should read. It helped me understand so much more about where we are at, and I would love for more recommendations of books to read about AI, its potentials and its downfalls, and yeah, if you have anything that you think I would enjoy, please let me know, because it's something that I really want to read more about. It's one of those things that really scares me. So I'm trying to find out more about it in the hope of understanding why it scares me and what I can do about that. And if you watched my other favourite books of the year video, all the fiction books that I read, this is the book that made me very excited about reading Moderation by Elaine Castillo. So there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. These are all the best books that I read in 2025. As always, if you've read them, please let me know. If you have any recommendations for me, please let me know. I love hearing them, and I can't promise to take you up on them because I am bad and I have so many books to read, but I love hearing them anyway. Thank you very much. I will see you very soon.